The physician advised the patient to undergo further test, stating that the initial results were inconclusive. So here the question is, what does inconclusive most likely imply in this context? The physician advised the patient to undergo further tests. So you have to connect all the other things as well, stating that the initial results were inconclusive. Right. So the right answer option is basically answer option C. The results did not provide a definite answer. Conclusive. Conclusive means what? Conclusion. Okay. So when you're watching a movie, there has to be, an end to the movie, right? If there is no end, then that means there has been no conclusion. Right. So that means that we have a definite end. Okay. We have a definite answer. That is what we call as having a conclusive test report. But over here, the patient is for the physician is saying to the patient to undergo more test. Okay, the patient underwent few tests. Now the doctor is saying you need to go more test. Why? The reason is the initial test. Initial means the very first test, they were inconclusive. That means the initial test reports, they did not provide a definitive answer. Okay, so these are medical terms. So these medical terms you will have to be quite familiar. Okay, especially in OET writing, reading, and all these types of medical colloquial terms will come. Right. So over here, let's take a look into the second question. Right. Second question is this. Which of the following best completes the sentence? Although the symptoms have subsided, the physician advised the patient to continue the antibiotics to avoid. So here there may be more than one correct answer, but choose the answer option that is the most appropriate. Give importance to the keywords. Although the symptoms have subsided, the physician advised the patient to continue the antibiotics. Right. So what will be the answer? The answer option will be D, right? Because what type of medications are we dealing with? We are dealing with antibiotics, that is bacterial infections, right? So here the doctor is saying, okay, the patient had a bacterial infection and we gave the patient certain antibiotics. And from the first day or the second day itself, the symptoms have subsided because the symptoms have gone away. But that still the physician is advising the patient to continue the antibiotics. That is, even if you don't have the symptoms of the bacterial infection, you must not, stop the medication course right now. You have to complete the medication course. So why would we tell a person to continue the antibiotic course? To avoid recurrence. Okay, so right now there has been a temporary relief. So to avoid recurrence is what we'll be choosing the answer. If you want, you can choose the complications also, but the most appropriate answer would be answer option D. It is recurrence. Right. So now let's go to the third question for the day. So this is the third question. Let's take a look into that. The question is saying, choose the sentence that uses the word manifest in a medically appropriate way. Manifest in a medical context. Manifest has multiple meanings, but in a medical context, which will be the appropriate answer? Right. So manifest is a word that we can use in many different sentences. So, for example, the patient manifested joy. Okay, manifest basically means, you know, what we can precipitation. We can say, or like an end result. Okay, that is after a lot of effort when we achieve something. Okay, that is usually what we call as manifestation. Right. So in over here, joy is basically an expression. Okay, we usually express joy. So, and that too in a medical context, we cannot choose answer option A, right? But you take a look into answer option B, symptoms of the condition may manifest. Okay, that is if this condition is there and it shows it has certain symptoms, and how will the symptoms, you know, um, come about in the patient, like in the patient's body, how will the symptoms look like? Okay, so that is what we call as manifestation. Okay, so there also we can use the word manifestation. So the symptoms will usually reveal themselves as fatigue and irritability. Irritability means getting like annoyed very easily, becoming very frustrated, and fatigue basically means tiredness. This is also correct. The doctor manifested. Manifested basically means showed. Okay, the doctor showed the results to the supervisor. Right. Her manifest. Here, manifest basically means the report. Okay, the report of the patient. That is what we call as a manifest. So, manifest is a word that has multiple meanings. So, in a medically appropriate context, answer option B will be the more suitable answer. Right. So, let's go to the fourth question. So, here I already finished all these things. Right. So, the fourth question over here is, what is the tone of the following statement? Okay, so tone. Is it a happy tone? Is it a sarcastic tone? Right? Is it a negative tone? So just by reading the sentence, you must be able to identify the attitude, the tone of the writer. The new system is theoretically sound, but its application in a high pressure setting remains questionable. So with this statement, you need to understand what is the mindset of the writer. In a happy mind or a negative mind, in a doubtful mind, is he writing the statement? So I will be teach small description about contrast phrases I will be telling you with this particular statement. The new system. So just imagine. So imagine what the doctor is, I mean, yeah, the person is saying. The new system is theoretically sound. Sound basically means what? Sound means good. Okay, that means it sounds good. So we know, yeah, that sounds like a very good plan. Okay, or that idea sounds very good. Okay, so when we want to say, okay, this is a very good thing, we can say, yeah, it is sound. Okay, it sounds. Okay, it sounds good. So here he's saying the new system. Okay, so replacement of an old system, a new system is coming. Okay, and in theory, okay, theoretically, we don't know the practical thing of it. So theory, so before practical, before application, there is always a theory, right? So here's a theoretically, okay, theoretically, it sounds very good. Okay, now here the word but is coming. Okay, so but is basically what we call as a contrast phrase. It is one of the most common and one of the most important contrast phrase. So I'll tell you what it means. And you can identify the attitude of the writer with this one single word. Now the writer is saying, but its application in a high pressure setting, that is in a very stressful environment, application of this new system setting remains questionable. Okay, that is, he is doubting it. He is doubting it whether it will work properly or not. In theory, it sounds good, but in practice, it is questionable. Right. So even if you don't understand the second part of the sentence, if you're able to understand this part of the sentence, now you see over here, what is this part of the sentence saying? The new system is theoretically sound. So we can say that is a positive information, right? So this information over here, it is positive. Don't you agree? The new system is theoretically sound. Now, as soon as that sentence ends over here, the word but is coming. So this is what we call as a contrast phrase. Okay, so there are several contrast phrases like however, although, even though, okay, on the other hand. Okay, so like certain contrast phrases, but is the most usually used. And here they have now the word but is coming. Now, without a doubt, even if you don't read the remaining part of the sentence, you can say that this part of the sentence is going to be negative. Okay, because contrast phrase usually signals a change. Okay, signals contrast phrases. What does it is? It usually signals a sudden shift in tone. Okay, so this is what we call as a contrast phrase. Now, see over here, this is a positive information. The new system is theoretically sound. Now, the word but is coming. So now, without any doubt, you can say the following information is going to be a negative information. Now, see, this is negative. The application of this system in a high pressure setting remains questionable. Right. So, what will be the answer? So, answer option C, balanced with mild skepticism. Okay, so he is saying, okay, I have a very balanced approach. Okay, the system sounds good. So, okay, so the positive, and at the same time, he is feeling negative as well. So the positive and negative is balanced. And how is he balancing the positive thing? With mild skepticism. Skeptic, being a skeptic basically means to the optimist, the opposite of optimistic. Okay, so I'll just type these words over here. We have the words such as optimistic, and then we have words such as pessimistic. Okay, optimistic means basically means a very positive person or a positive information. Pessimistic basically means the opposite, a negative person or a negative information. So here skeptic. Okay, so skeptic basically means he's not believing it. Okay, he is doubting it. That's what we call as a skeptic person. Okay, so skepticism means doubt. So the answer option will be C option. Okay, so that's what we call as contrast phrases. So if you really dive deeper into contrast phrases and all, the reading part and all becomes much more manageable. Now let's come to the fifth question. So this is where many students do make a mistake. Right. So what will the answer? What will be the answer over here? The doctor is saying the doctor ordered an MRI to rule out any neurological cause. So what does the phrase rule out mean in this sentence? Does it mean to confirm? Does it mean to completely ignore? Or does it mean to eliminate? Or does it mean to prioritize? The doctor ordered an MRI to rule out any neurological cause. So why will we send a person to an MRI scan? Okay, we usually send as a diagnostic test, okay, to find out whether the person is having any particular disease or not. So the doctor ordered an MRI to rule out any neurological cause. All right. So the right answer option over here is a tricky one. Many students do make a mistake. It is answer option C. To eliminate. Ruling out basically means to eliminate the possibility. Okay. So over here, the doctor ordered an MRI to rule out any neurological cause. So that means the doctor wants to eliminate. Okay. He wants to confirm that there is no neurological cause. Okay, so if we do an MRI and if the doctor is saying, okay, so according to the test reports, neurological cause has been ruled out. Ruled out basically means that information has been eliminated. That means the patient is not having that. So it is basically the exact opposite of confirm. Right. So answer option C will be the right answer. Okay, so it's a very tricky vocabulary over here. Good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to be discussing reading part B today. Okay, so we have a couple of questions that I have kept in mind. We'll be discussing two questions, and both these questions are different types of questions. So the fifth question over here. So first, everyone. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me just fit everything into the screen. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Question, this is the sixth question. Sometimes it is a little bit tricky to incorporate everything. Okay. All right. So this is the fifth question over here. And this is the paragraph over here. So first I'll give you a couple of minutes. So read the question, read the paragraph, and type your answer in the chat box.
Hello.
Yes?
So may I know the task, please?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Hello.
Yeah. You said, what did you say? Yeah, Lakshmi. No, okay. All right. So what is the answer? Type your answer in the chat box.
Can you just make the paragraph that is small because it's the first lines are not pros.
Oh, you can't see
It's
the
not.
first line?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, may I know the task, please?
The
I got
task.
disconnected in the middle.
Okay. So this is the question over here. So can you see the screen? Is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
this is a part B reading question. Right. So I'll just take this document over here. So what is the question type? Okay. So let's just begin with the discussion of the question. So the question over here is, the guidelines require those undertaking a clinical medication review to answer option A, involve the patient in their decisions. B, consider the cost of any change in treatments. And finally, we have C option, that is recommend other services as an alternative to medication. So there are different types in OET reading part B. Okay, so OET reading part B has 6 questions, and all these 6 questions are going to be workplace related questions. So as you can see over here, there will be 6 short extracts, and all these 6 extracts are going to be related to the work. That is, when you are working in a hospital, you will be getting instruction manuals, okay, of medical equipments. Okay, you will be getting notices from the hospital, right? You will be getting, see, like this guidelines, that is what the staff must do. Okay, that is rules and regulations, and your guidelines, once again documents, right? And also you're getting policies, okay, policies and protocols and all that. Emails. So okay, the sixth question over here is an email over here. So these are the type of documents that you can expect to receive from the hospital that you're working. So that is why reading part B are called workplace extracts. Now we have read the fifth question. So what type of question is it? Okay, so once you identify the question type, it becomes much more easier for you to approach this particular question, right? So let me just open the question over here. Okay, so this document that I have prepared. So this question is basically a fact-based detailed question. Okay, it is basically asking you to pinpoint one particular detail or one particular fact. So it is a direct question. And let's understand why this is a direct question. Because over here they're saying the guidelines. Okay, guidelines means what? A set of instructions. Okay, the hospital is basically instructing the medical staff. So as per the instructions, as per the guidelines, they require those undertaking a clinical medication review. Okay, so for patients, we will be providing them with a clinical medication review. So when we are conducting a medication review, okay, what are the medical staff supposed to do? Okay, so imagine that you are a medical staff and you are conducting a medication review of a patient. So when you're doing that, as per the guidelines, what are you required to do? Okay, so this is a direct question. It's a detail specific question. So the detail will be given over here, and all you have to do is identify what that specific information is. That is what exact info, thing they're supposed to do. Right. So over here, once you identify the question type, okay, so this question type over here, it is a detailed specific question. That means the question is testing you if you can find specific facts. Okay, here it is going to be very specific information or expectations from the paragraph. All right. So, like according to the guidelines. So, as from the guidelines, one specific information they're asking you, what is required, what is stated. So these are certain clues. Okay, so these type of questions, if you come across, you can say that this is a fact-based detailed question. Right. Now, once you identify that this is this type of a question, how can you approach the paragraph to find the answer? Okay, so we have first and foremost, you need to scan quickly. Okay, that is get the structure of the entire guideline over here. That is, so I'll be talking to you how it's done. So once you have scanned the entire thing, look for guideline language because the set of instruction over here. So when we are instructing someone, we'll be using language such as you must do like this, you should do like that, it is expected of you. Okay, because it's a guideline. So guideline languages come from these type of words: must, should, expected, and all. And that is where usually the answer will be located. Okay, so this is a small strategy that will help you to, identify the answer in a short period of time, small amount of time. And then we have explicit information, and then we have implicit information. So what is the difference between explicit info and implicit info? Explicit basically means the information will be clearly written in the text. Okay, that is the answer or this information, it is clearly written. Okay, there is no indirect, or misguidance over here. It is clearly as clear as the day it is written over there. That is what we call as explicit, right? But if it is, if the information is not written there, okay, the answer will not be clearly written in the text, but it may be implied. Okay, implied basically means we need to find out, okay, what the message is over here. Okay, and that is something that we have to come to our own inference. We have to infer the meaning. Okay, so that will not be mentioned clearly, but we have to come to our own understanding. Okay, this is what is written, and therefore this is the implied meaning. Okay, so those type of information is what we call as implicit information. So that skill also you should be able to understand. Right. And then you should be also be available with the word traps. Okay. So again, we are dealing with OET, a lot of cunning, tricks and traps they have, and we should not fall victims to these traps. Okay. So don't pick an option because the words match. This is why comprehension of the question is very, very important. When we are trying to choose the correct answer, don't choose the answer option which has the exact words. Okay, exact words in the question and exact words in the paragraph. Instead of trying to find matching the words, try to match the meaning. Okay, the meaning is what you should be able to match, even if the words are not the same. That is how you should be able to avoid word traps. Okay, and eliminate what's not mentioned. If something is not mentioned, then there is no need for you to choose that answer option. All right. And then you have to read like a detective. So it's actually a very interesting thing. You have a very good memory of the question. Okay, this is a guideline. As per the guidelines, medical review is being conducted on a patient. At that time, what must the staff do? So you like, become a detective and, look for clues. So for example, if you're a detective and if you enter a crime scene, you will be looking for clues, right? So like that, look for clues. Okay, identify the information, the hidden information here and there and all, and think, have a conversation with yourself, ask yourself a lot of questions, and then try to pinpoint the answer. This is how OET is done. It is very rarely, a very easy process. So what we are going to do is we are first and foremost going to comprehend the question, okay, using the keyword analysis, and then later on we'll do the verb analysis as well. So we have already understood the question. This is a guideline, and the guideline is instructing a medical staff to do one particular thing when they are conducting a clinical medication review. So what is the answer option A? So what must the medical staff do? The medical staff must involve the patient in their decisions. Now tell me, who is there over here? Type your answer in the chat box. Who is there? Who are they? Because if you don't understand this, then there is not much point. There. Who are they? Is it the guidelines? Is it the patients? Is it these? Who are they? All right. Well, okay, so it was a good attempt, right? So the answer option or the correct answer today is basically the medical staff. Okay, so over here, this guidelines. Okay, so who is reading these guidelines? The medical staff. Okay, the doctors and nurses are reading the guidelines. So as per the guidelines, okay, the medical staff who's conducting medication review, they must involve the patient in their decisions. That is, when the doctors are making a decision. So after conducting a review, they will take a decision, right? Okay, the medical staff will take a decision. So when they are taking a decision, they must definitely involve the patient. Okay, they must give importance to the patient, and then only they should complete their decision. So that is how what there means. And OET will definitely do this several times, and that connection ability you must be able to make. Now let's come to answer option B. Okay, so what should they do? The guideline is instructing that the medical staff must consider the cost of any change in treatments. Okay, so if we are going to change the treatment for the patient, that is after we do review, so we may say, okay, let's change your treatment. So treatment A to treatment B. So when we are going to change the treatment, okay, you have to consider the cost. Cost means the price. Okay, so how costly is it? Okay, how expensive it is? Okay, so that expense they must consider if patients are instructed to change their treatments. So that is the thing they must do as per the guidelines. What is the third answer option? Recommend other services as an alternative to medication. Right. So now what is the guideline saying? The medical staff must recommend. Recommend means to suggest. Okay. So they must suggest other services. Okay. So other medical services as an alternative to medication. That is substitution. Okay. That is, we are substituting medications for other services. And that is what the requirement is. So like this, you should be able to do the keyword analysis and make the link from the question and the answers. Now let's do something called as the verb analysis. So verb analysis, like basically identifying the focus, identifying the focal point of the question, okay, of the answer option. So over here, we have the guidelines require those undertaking clinical medication review to involve the patient in their decisions. So what is the verb over here? What is the action over here? Involve. Okay, that is the patients must be involved. Okay, the involvement. Okay, involvement is the action. Okay, so that is what the requirement is. Okay, so you should be able to make this connection over here. The requirement over here is the medical staff must ensure the patient's involvement in the review process. Now, what is the verb in answer option B? Consider the cost of any change in treatments. So change is a verb over here, but the focal point of the focal verb over here is consider. Consider the cost. Okay, so we must make sure the expense. Okay, the expense of treatment change is considered. That is the second thing. Now let's come to the third option over here, recommend other services. Okay, so over here, what is the action? Recommend. Okay, so other services should be recommended. So this is the requirement. Now you see over here, we have three separate requirements over here. First is patient's involvement. Second thing is considering the expense of the treatment. Third one is recommending other services. See, completely all three are very, very different. Okay, and this information should be in your mind. So like this, you have to comprehend the question. See, there is no need to be in a hurry. Okay, if you understand the question very thoroughly, if you put 10% extra effort into understanding the question, it becomes much more easier and efficient and less time consuming to find the answer from the paragraph. Okay, so there is no harm if you give maybe 5 seconds more for reading the question, because this has to be thorough. The OET is giving you marks for answering the question, not for reading the paragraph. Right. So now what you have to do, you must have a thorough memory of the question in your mind. Okay, that is what is very, very important. Now let's come to the paragraph over here. Okay, so this is the annual medication review. So let's do the keyword analysis as we go. So on your examination day, you must have a pencil with you and you must constantly interact with the question paper. Right. So remember what type of question this is. So this is a detail specific question. Okay, detail specific question. A specific answer, a specific information is what we must find out. That is an instruction. According to the guidelines, what instruction is specifically mentioned for the medical staff when they are conducting a medication review. Right. So that should be in your mind. And with that focus, okay, with that memory only, you should read the paragraph. So let's read the paragraph over here. So annual medication review, that is every year, okay, yearly medication review. Now here the guideline is saying, okay, the guideline is saying to give all patients an annual medication review is an ideal to strive for. Okay, so here they're saying to give every single patient an annual medication review is an ideal. Ideal means it is a very perfect thing. In the meantime, there is an argument, okay, for targeting all clinical medication reviews to those patients likely to benefit most. So what is the first sentence telling? The first sentence telling, it is a very good idea. It is a very good idea to give every patient an medication review. Every single patient, giving them a medication review is a very good idea. But at the same time, there is an argument. Some people are not agreeing to this. Some people are arguing there is no need to give every single patient a review. Only those patients who are going to get benefit. Okay, so if a patient is not going to get benefit from a medication review, there is no need for to give them the medication review. Only those patients who need it, only those patients who will get benefit from it needs to be given a medication review. So like this we have read. Now see over here, what was the question? The question was the instruction. The medical staff, what should they do when they are conducting a medication review? So these are what we call as distractors. Okay, so this information over here is completely useless to us because according to your memory, your duty is to find, okay, what must the medical staff do when they are conducting a review? So this is just a small introduction. Okay, so here you're not getting any instruction over here. So even if you don't understand it much, just skip it and let's come to the second paragraph. Okay, so that ability where to focus and where not to focus, that you should develop. Right, only then you will be able to save your time and energy. But for the sake of teaching, I'm giving you the full explanation over here because it is very important that you understand. Now, the second paragraph is saying our guidelines state that at least a level 2 medication review will occur. Okay, so here at least a level 2 medication. Now you see over here, let me ask you one single question. Now this sentence over here, okay, at least and level medication review will occur. Why is this sentence alone written inside inverted commas? See, everything else is not written in inverted commas, but why is suddenly an inverted comma coming over here? And also, why is it coming over here? Can anyone tell me? Why is this? What is so special about this particular statement? Why is this information coming in quotations? So we call it quotations. Why is it called? Why is it coming in quotations? It's very important to understand. No? No one has an idea? Okay. So when we are writing something, okay, so when we are writing something, when we are writing our own words, you can write however you want. Okay, so it is my own. So if I am writing this guideline and my own words are coming from my mind, my own words are coming, I can write normally like this. But when I'm going to copy another person's statement, that is from another document or from another person, I'm going to copy their dialogue. I'm going to copy their statement. So when I'm writing someone else's words, okay, when I'm writing some other person's words, I will always put in quotations. Now you see over here, what is the sentence over here? So the sentence over here is the guidelines state. Okay, so the guidelines are saying. So what's the guideline saying? At least a level 2 medication review will occur. So this dialogue over here has been taken from the guideline document. Okay, from another guideline document, this information has been taken. That is why this information is written in quotations. Now you see over here as well, this particular sentence as well as this particular sentence. You can see that these quotations are coming. Now you see over here. That means these sentences. See, however, the guidelines go on to say, now see these sentences are not the words of the writer. These sentences are words that has been taken from another document, from another person. So we usually put it in quotations, right? So you need to understand this, especially in reading part C. These small inverted commas will make a lot of difference. Right. So anyway, let's come to the second paragraph. So the guidelines say that at least a level 2 medication review will occur. Okay. So level 1, level 2. Okay. We have, so different levels are there, right? So minimum, at least means what? Minimum a level 2 medication will occur. So for every patient, minimum level 2 medication review will be given. In essence, the minimum standard is a treatment review of the medicines with a full notes, but not necessarily with the patient present. Okay, so in essence, so what is the meaning of level 2? Okay, so here they are basically telling the definition of level 2. So what's the definition of level 2 review? The definition of level 2 review is that the minimum standard, okay, the minimum standard is a treatment review of medicines with full notes, okay, full notes of the medicines, but not necessarily with the patient present. Okay, so that is, we have to make full notes of the patient's medication, but it is not necessary that the patient should be present there. So once again, you have the memory of the question. What's the question telling you? According to the guidelines, what must the people do? What must the medical staff do? So again, we are waiting for a specific instruction, but still we have not received an instruction over here. So we can say, okay, this is just a distractor. Okay, it is just a distractor over here. Let's keep reading. Okay, so once again, not without spending too much effort over here, you can go to the next information. However, the guidelines go on to say, so the guidelines go on to say that all patients should, now see over here, should over here. Now see, this is an instruction. Okay, so when it is an instruction, we use the word, okay, you should do this, you must do this. Okay, so that skill you should have. So now you're coming, okay, this is an instruction I'm waiting for. And this is the word, okay, this is the clue that I've been waiting for. Now let's see what the sentence is. All patients should, okay, have the chance to raise questions and highlight problems about their medicines. So we should give. So whenever a medical staff is conducting a review, every single patient must be given the chance to ask questions. Any question they have, the patients has the right to ask those questions. And also to highlight the problems, to highlight any grievances or any concerns about the medications, right? And that any changes, and because of that, if any changes So from the decisions, if you're going to make any changes in decisions resulting from the review are agreed with the patient. Now you see, what must the medical staff do? They must allow the patients to ask questions. They must allow the patient to highlight their problems. And also, if any changes, if the medical staff is going to bring any changes, what should they do? They must make sure that the patient agrees to it. If the patient is not agreeing to the changes, then they cannot make the decision. So what is the answer option over here? Now, this is the benefit of reading the answer option first. Now, what did we read in answer option A? Involve the patient in their decision. So what is the verb over here? Involvement. Okay, that is the patient has to be involved in every single decision of the medical staff. Okay, so that is patients involvement is there, right? Patients are allowed to ask questions. Patients are allowed to raise their concerns, and patient must agree. Patients must agree to the treatment changes. So the direct involvement of the patient is there in the decisions of the patient. And this is the word should. Okay, the word should over there was the key word that we're looking for, because we know that this is a detailed specific question. This is an instruction over here. So we can highly suspect. So with a very strong suspicion, you can suspect that answer option A could be the right answer. Right. Again, we have two more answer options, but let's just confirm. Let's just confirm whether A could be the right answer option or not. Right. So let's come to the last portion of the this thing over here. Now it over here. Now tell me, what does it refer to? What is this it over here? Type your answer in the chat box. What does it mean? GP, general practitioner. So this is a guideline. This is an instruction for the GPs over here. What GPs are expected to. Very good. All right. Guidelines. Not review, Dr. Ravi. It is basically guidelines. Okay. So as per the guidelines, people who are doing the review, what must they do? That is the question. Right. So over here, the review is an end process. The review is something that happens after the medical staff completes the action. Okay, so here it is a guideline. Okay, so that is the answer. So the guidelines stay, the instructions. Okay, so it basically means the guidelines. So guidelines say that GPs are expected to do the following. So what are the expectations over here? Minimize waste in prescribing and avoid ineffective treatments. So that is the GPs must minimize waste, that is, don't unnecessarily prescribe medications and avoid ineffective treatments. Okay, engage effectively in the prevention of ill health. Okay, that is prevent diseases. Ill health means diseases. So prevent all these things. Avoid the need for costly treatments. So if there is a costly treatment, avoid the need for costly treatments. How? By proactively managing patients to recovery through the whole care pathway. Right. So now let's come once again to the answer options. Now what will be the answer option that is the most easy to eliminate? The most easy answer option to eliminate is answer option C, right? Recommend other services. So this is the verb over here, and this verb over here is not mentioned. That is suggesting, that is the guideline is saying recommend other services. So is that verb mentioned anywhere? It is not mentioned anywhere. Right? And alternative to medication. So these keywords. So the keywords are also nowhere mentioned. So therefore, answer option C is eliminated. It is the easiest answer option to eliminate. Now we have two answer options, that is A or B. Now let's come to answer option B. So here they have, what is the verb over here? Consider the cost of any change in treatments. So if the medical staff is bringing any change in treatments, we need to consider the cost. So let's see if that is mentioned anywhere. So let's come over here. So here they have written avoid the need for costly treatments. So here they're telling if avoid the need. Okay, so if there is a cheap treatment and then there is a costly treatment, avoid costly treatments. That is what is mentioned. Okay, avoid costly treatment. Here, what is the verb of here? Consider the cost of any change in treatments, right? So this is not mentioned. Okay, change in treatment is not mentioned. Okay, this is not mentioned anywhere. And consider, the consideration part, that is not mentioned. But this keyword is the only thing that is mentioned. Okay, so this is the only keyword that is mentioned. However, the verb is not mentioned and this verb is also not mentioned. So B can be eliminated and C is also eliminated. So by default, answer option A will be the right answer, right? And this we can very easily say, yeah, patient's involvement is necessary. Okay, so this is the verb over here, and that is very, very clearly mentioned, right? So A will be the right answer. Okay, and it became very easy when if you understand what type of question this is. So detailed specific question, it is an instruction. So you should be able to avoid the distractors. So up until here, so these are all distractors and these are also all distractors. So you must be able to identify, okay, the OET is trying to trick me over here. This is not an instruction for the medical staff. The instructions for the medical staff is coming right over here. The medical staff, so that is the medical staff should do all these things. That is the thing that we are waiting for. And as soon as we came across that, we were able to choose answer option A. Right. So comprehension, retention, keyword analysis, verb analysis, and reading with a purpose, reading with an aim, and pinpointing the right answer. Right. So this is a detailed specific question. Now we are going to go to the second question over here, and this is a different type of question. This is a purpose type question. Purpose. Purpose basically means what? Reason. Why? Okay. The purpose of this email. So here it is. So this is a what? This is an explicit information. Okay. So what can we say? This is explicit, right? Explicit. Explicit basically means what? Clearly written, right? So the answer is clearly written in the text. That is what we call as an explicit data. But this question over here, okay, this question over here is what? The purpose. Okay, purpose basically means what? You have to read the entire thing. And now you have to identify, okay, why did this person, why did the hospital send this email? So that is, you have to reason, you have to think about it, you have to reflect on it, and you have to come to your own inference. So what will be the, is it going to be explicit? No, it is going to be implicit. Okay, that is, you need to find the implied meaning. And this requires your reasoning skills. The answer is not going to be here. It is not going to be specifically mentioned. It is an implicit information. Most likely 90% of the time it will be an implicit information. So here you have to determine what the implied meaning is by reasoning. Okay. So that's the purpose type questions. All right. So, is it going to be possible to, all right. So we'll do one thing. Just read the question over here. Once you read the question, then I will show you the paragraph. All right. So I hope the retention of the memory of the question is done. Now I'm going to show you the paragraph over here. So this is the thing. Yeah. Right. So type your answer in the chat box. What is the purpose of this email? So this is an implicit information. You have to reflect. Yeah, the question is displayed over here, Lakshmi. I am displaying the question. Uh, like, do you mean the question or the paragraph? I think some issue may be there with your network. I'm not sure.
Question.
Yeah, the question is right here. You can see the question, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Right. So let's take a look. So what type of question is this? Okay, what type of, so the previous question was a detail specific question. So this question over here, it is not a detail specific question. It is basically a purpose-based question, right? So let's understand what are purpose-based questions and how to answer. So once you identify, okay, this is a purpose-based question, how should you prepare yourself? Okay, what should you, how should you basically approach the paragraph? So there's a purpose-based question. So you're being asked, why was this text written? Okay, so you have to read the entire text and now you have to ask, okay, why was this text written? So it's an implicit information, not explicit. The focus is on the overall intention. Okay, the intent over here, not the small details. Okay, so the clue over here is the purpose of this email is to. So as soon as you, very directly they're asking, what was the intention of the email? Right. So how are you supposed to approach the paragraph? Get the big picture. Okay, and just before going to the details, you can just have a quick scan of the paragraph and ask yourself, what is the main reason of this email or message? Okay, the main reason, what is the main intention? Like what message the email wants to give the reader? Okay, and then we have something called cause and effect. Okay, cause and effects means basically means, see, effect basically means, like a change or, something happened. Okay. So something happened or something is going to happen. Okay. Now there will be a reason for it. Okay. There will be a cause for it. Okay. So something happened previously. And as a result of that, this is going to happen. So that could be, again, so this is something that we have to understand by reading the entire thing. Okay. So see, if the effect, okay, the effect of the information over here is to signal a change. Okay, that is if a change needs to come over here, or if a new instruction is coming, or if a new conclusion is coming, what was the reason behind it? Okay, what caused this effect? Okay, so again, it's a little bit complex thing that if you read once I explain the entire paragraph, you will be able to understand. Okay, understand the flow of the text. Okay, so there is a small information flow over here. Okay, so once again, the information, it first gives data. It gives data about a problem, that is respiratory depression, right? And then after that, so after the information about the respiratory depression has been given, then it explains consequences. Okay, that is, it explains the consequences of this problem. So if this problem continues, okay, because of this problem, what are the negative consequences? So that has been mentioned. Okay, and then there is the final part of the sentence of the information is the effect. So these are the causes over here. Okay, the problem is the cause, the consequence is a cause, and because of these causes, a new effect is going to come. The recommend. Okay, so change has been recommended. Right. So everyone you have read the text over here, and like that, you will be able to identify the purpose. Right. So let's take a look into the question. Let's do the keyword analysis of the question. So I'll be sending those documents to you later on. So it will go, you should be able to find, you can just go through them after the session is done. So here the main keyword is purpose. So very clearly they're asking, what is the reason for sending this email? Why did the hospital send the email to the medical staff? So reason number one, okay, to report on a rise in post-surgical complications. Okay, that is post-surgery based on after surgery. Okay, so after surgery, the patient may develop complications. That is what we call as post-surgical complications. And there has been an increase. Okay, there has been a big increase in post-surgical complications. And to informing that is the reason for sending this email. What is answer option B? Explain the background to a change in patient care. Okay, so here the reason for sending this email. The reason for sending this email is to explain the history, the background. Okay, so small history of the, or background has been explained. And why has it been explained? To bring a change in patient care. Okay, that is currently, this is the patient care. And in the future, we want to bring a small change. Okay, that is, we want to bring a change in the way patients are treated, patients are cared for. Okay, so, but that explanation, why this change is coming. Okay, what is the reason for this change? The history. So they're just explaining the history, the background information to make us understand this is the reason for a change in patient care. Okay, so the purpose of this email is to explain the background to a change in patient care. C option, to remind the staff about procedures for administering drugs. Okay, so here what is the reason for sending the email? To remind the staff. Okay, the staff must not forget. Okay, what they should not forget about procedures for administrating medications. Okay, so when we are giving medications, there are certain procedures, and those procedures they should not forget. So it is a reminder. Okay, so now let's do the keyword analysis. I mean the verb analysis over here. Right. So what is the verb over here? Report. Okay. So the purpose of this email is to report on a rise. Okay. There has been an increase. Okay. There has been a very big increase in post-surgical complications, and the email wants to report that. That is the reason for sending this email. Now, what is the verb in answer option B? Explaining. Okay, so the email over here is trying to explain the background to a change. Okay, so a small historical information or the background it is trying to explain. Okay, to bring to justify why a change in patient care is required. And what is the action? What is the verb in answer option C? Remind the staff. Okay, so here the main intention of the email is to remind the staff over here. To remind the staff on how to properly administer medications. Right. So like this, you should have the memory of the question very thorough. Right. Now, let's come to the paragraph over here. Okay, let's come to the paragraph. And again, remember, this is an inference type question. You will have to come to your own reasoning. Okay, you have to read the paragraph and you have to think, okay, why was this email sent? So over here, the subject of the email is safe use of opioids. Opioids are basically very potent painkillers, right? And it is very important that we are safely using them. That is the main subject over here, safe use of painkillers. Now the email is saying in August, so they are beginning with the past information. Okay, in August, an alert was issued. So see, it is talking about a past incident. In August, an alert was issued on the safe use of opioids in hospitals. Okay, so regarding safe use of opioids, alert was issued. This reported. Now, what is this over here? Okay, so the word this over here is basically the alert. Okay, so this connection you must be able to make. Without this connection, it is going to be very, very challenging. Okay, so this refers to this alert over here. Okay, so in August, an alert means what? A warning. Okay, a warning was issued on the safe use of opioids in hospitals. So this basically means this warning. Okay, so this warning is what is referring. So this warning reported, okay, again past tense, this warning reported the incidence of respiratory depression. Okay, respiratory depression. So this is the medication over the problem over here, respiratory depression among post-surgical patients. Post-surgical patients to an average of 0.5. Thus, for every 5,000 surgical patients, 25 will experience respiratory depression. Now, over here, what is the email telling? Okay, in August, and warning was issued about safe use of opioids. And according to the warning, respiratory depression. Respiratory depression is a complication. Okay, so this complication is happening among post-surgical patients. After surgery, patients are developing. Before surgery, they did not have respiratory depression, but after surgery, they are developing respiratory depression. Okay, and incidence means in how many people this incident is happening, to an average of 0.5. So in 0.5% of patients, post-surgical patients, this complication is happening. And what does 0.5 basically means? 0.5 basically means 5,000 patients. For every 5,000 patients, 25 patients will experience respiratory depression. Okay, so if 5,000 surgeries are done, among those 5,000 surgeries, 25 patients will develop respiratory depression. Right. So this is the warning that was issued in August. Now here they're saying failure to recognize. Okay, failure means what? Not able to recognize. Okay, failure to recognize respiratory depression. Okay, oh God. Failure to recognize respiratory depression and institute timely intervention can lead to cardiopulmonary arrest. Right. So here, what is the email telling? Okay, so this is a very serious issue. Okay, if the medical staff do not recognize respiratory depression, okay, and if they do not institute timely intervention basically means what? Right time, the correct treatment. Okay, so if a patient is having respiratory depression after surgery, and if the medical staff is not identifying it, and if we do not identify it, and if we do not give the treatment at the correct time, what will happen? It will become an even more life-threatening complication. That is, it will lead to, from respiratory depression, it will become cardiopulmonary arrest. And from cardiopulmonary arrest, it will result in brain injury or death. Okay, so these are the three stages. Okay, four stages. What's the first stage? First stage is a surgery. Second stage is respiratory depression. Third stage is cardiopulmonary arrest. And fourth stage is brain injury or death. Now you see over here the timeline, the flow of information. Okay, the flow of information is going like this. Okay, so here the email. So here, okay, the email is talking about how serious. So again, why would this email write? So again, why? You have to think like this. So why would someone write like this? So here the email is trying to tell us how serious post-surgical complications are. It's a very, very serious thing. Okay, so that is what it is not saying. The email is not saying this is a serious issue, but we are able to understand. The person is trying to tell us that this is a very serious complication because it results in death of the patient. Now let's come to the this information over here. A retrospective multi-center study. Study basically means what? A big research. Okay, a lot of subjects, a lot of participants. Okay, so we call it clinical trials. Okay, clinical trials basically means a lot of patients, a lot of subjects will come, and we will conduct experiments on them. Okay, that is what we call as a study. Okay, so a very large experiment was done, a retrospective multi-center experiment. And how many people were there in the experiment? 14,720 cardiopulmonary arrest cases. Okay, so these are all patients over here. This many patients they studied. Okay, the medical scientists came and they studied this many people, and among them showed 44% of them were respiratory related. Okay, so from 44% of cardiopulmonary arrest cases, 44, so among 14,720, this many patients, 44% of the patients, they developed cardiopulmonary arrest because of a respiratory issue. Okay, they did not have cardiopulmonary arrest automatically. 44% of the people, they first developed a respiratory complication, and then only they developed cardiopulmonary arrest cases. Okay, arrest. Okay, so that is the information it is coming. So they are basically telling in ulta order, in opposite action they're saying. Okay, first respiratory infection happened, and then only cardiopulmonary arrest happened. And more than 35% occurred on the general care floor. That general care means what? The general, that is, the other departments. Okay, 35% of the cardiopulmonary arrest, it happened because of other issues. It is therefore recommended. Now, see, now the email, okay, now the email is coming to a conclusion. Now the email is telling it is therefore. Okay, therefore means what? So we are trying to assess, okay, so a very serious issue. This is a very, very serious issue. Okay, that is post-surgical complications. A lot of after surgery, so many patients are suffering, so many patients are dying. Okay, so they are explaining all this information and now they're concluding it. And now they're saying it is therefore recommended that post-operative patients who have completed operations now have continuous monitoring. Now you see over here, now a change is going to come. Okay, so because of all these things, the patients over here, they should be given continuous monitoring. This is the change that is going to come instead of spot checks. So what is the present situation? Okay, presently patients are given only spot checks. That is after a surgery. Okay, after an operation, patients are not given continuous monitoring. Patients are right now, currently they are given only spot checks. Okay, of both oxygenation and ventilation. But now the email is saying, no, we cannot give them spot checks. We should give them continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring is important. So we are going to change. We are going to change the patient care. Right. Now, okay, now what is the email basically telling? Okay, we should bring a change in patient care because post-operative complications are very serious. So many patients are suffering, so many deaths are happening, so many cardiopulmonary arrests are happening. So therefore, we should bring a change from spot checks. We should make it to continuous monitoring. Right. So this is what we understand. So like this, you have to think. You have to think from the perspective of the email. Okay, why it was sent. Now let's come to the answer options. Okay, so what is answer option A telling? Answer option, what is the verb over here? The verb over here is report on a rise in post-surgical complications. Right. Now, was there an increase? Did they say in 10 years ago, this many complications, and now this many complications? No. The increase is not mentioned. They are just simply telling, okay, in August, a report was launched, and this many people had post-surgical complications. The complications are mentioned, post-surgical complications are mentioned, right? I'm not saying it is not mentioned. There is a report on that as well. But the increase part, is the email telling there has been an increase, there has been a 5% increase, there's a 10% increase? This verb is not mentioned, the increase is not mentioned. So since it is not mentioned, you can easily eliminate answer option A. It is very easy to eliminate, right? And that is not the purpose of the email as well. So here you have to understand, your duty is to find what is the purpose. Now let's come to answer option B. B is telling explain the background to a change in patient care. Right. So what is the verb over here? Explaining the background. So do you think that is mentioned? Yes. Okay. In August, a warning was launched. This many, deaths were happening. 0.5% of the people are dying. And, 44% of the people have cardiopulmonary arrest because of respiratory issues. So there is a change. Okay, that they are explaining the background information. And what about the change in patient care? Is the change in patient care mentioned? That is also mentioned, right? That is from spot checks. Okay, from spot checks to continuous monitoring. Okay, everything is mentioned. So the keyword is mentioned and the verb is mentioned. So you can suspect that B could be the right answer. Okay, B could be the very good right answer. Now let's come to the verb in answer option C. What is C telling us? Remind the staff about administering drugs. So this is the most easiest to eliminate. Okay, so we did not read anything about drug administration. No drugs, no medication we heard. Did we read about any single medication? No. Did we read anything about administering medications? No. There was no procedures and there is no reminding. Nothing is mentioned. So this is the easiest to eliminate, right? And A, this is mentioned, complications is mentioned, report is mentioned, but an increase is not mentioned. And even if it is mentioned, even if the increase has been mentioned, that is not the purpose, right? So your duty over here is to find what the purpose of the issue is. Purpose of the email. So the purpose of the email is to explain a background in patient care, change in patient care. And that is the answer option, which is the most difficult to eliminate. And therefore, B will become the right answer. Right. So this is how you have to reason and find the correct answer. Right. So this is how it is done. Right. So let's have a small recap of what
Sir, I am leaving the class.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
on duty actually.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for logging in. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So this is how we should be able to, deal with reading part B questions. So let's have a small recap of the questions over here. So reading part B will have 6 questions. Okay, it will have 6 questions over here, and all these 6 questions are completely unrelated. Okay, 6 questions we have, all 6 questions are completely unrelated with each other. Right. And another thing that we need to understand is that everything is multiple choice questions. You have to choose the correct answer option, right? And everything is going to be workplace related. Okay, workplace related conversations only will be coming over here. And we discussed 2 types of questions over here. So the first type question that we discussed was basically a detail specific question. Okay, it was not a purpose type question. So here they're asking you what instruction the guideline is giving. So it's a very explicit. So we can say this is explicit information. It is going to be clearly written in the text. It is explicit, right? And then we discussed about purpose type questions. So purpose type questions are not going to be explicit. They are implicit. Okay, that is, you have to find the implied meaning. Okay, so that's how it is done. And also we did the verb analysis, keyword analysis, and we also practiced the elimination strategy. Okay, and this is how you should be able to eliminate the incorrect answer option. So even if you're finding it difficult to choose the correct answer, you must be able to eliminate the incorrect answer options one by one. And whichever answer option is the most difficult to eliminate, that will be the right answer. So ideally, I would suggest that you spend about 2 minutes. Okay, that is 2 minutes per question. Okay, so we have part A and part A we have 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes we have for 20 questions. Right, we have 20 questions, 15 minutes time. And next we have part B and part C. Okay, part B and part C, in total there will be 22 questions. Okay, 22 questions will be there. And how much time do you have? You have 45 minutes. Okay, and again, when it comes to reading, time management is extremely important. So you have an option. So when you get so part A is a different question paper. Okay, so part A is a different question paper. After 15 minutes, they will take part A question paper away, and then they will distribute you the second question paper, that is, the part B and part C. In this question paper, there will be 22 multiple choice questions, and then there will be 40, you will get 45 minutes. So here you have an option. Okay, the option is, if you want, you can do part C first. If you want, you can do part C first, and then you can do part B, or you can do part B first, and then you can do part C. So that complete freedom you have. The most important thing is, within 45 minutes, you finish the 22 questions. Right. Now, again, time management. So how much questions do we have in part B? So in part B, we have 6 questions, right? We have 6 questions over here. And in part C, we have 2 extracts. Okay, we have extract 1 of part C, and we have extract 2 of part C. Okay, so you have 8 questions over here, and you have 8 questions over here. So in total, you have 22 questions. So I would suggest that you spend 16 minutes maximum, 16 minutes maximum for one extract of part C. Here also 16 minutes. Okay, and over here 13 minutes. So that means on an average, how much time you will be spending for each question in part B and part C. On average, you should be able to spend 2 minutes per question. Right. So that is, you can spend maximum. Okay. You can spend a maximum of 2 minutes per question, and you must train yourself. You must train yourself to find the answer to the question within 2 minutes. Some questions will definitely take you more than 2 minutes. Difficult questions. Some questions will be very, very easy. Those questions will take you maybe less than 1 minute. Okay. So easy questions are going to be there. Difficult questions are also going to be there. Okay. So see, right now, if you are a little bit of a beginner to the OET, there is no compulsion that you have to finish reading part A within 15 minutes. You can take 30 minutes, not a big problem. Okay, first you build the foundation. The foundation building is very, very important. Time management is the last thing you worry about. Okay, the first thing is basically understanding how to approach a question, how to navigate the question paper, how to understand the question, how to understand the paragraphs and what strategies to implement. So build that foundation first. Okay, so you can take, so if you're doing a part A, you can take 30 minutes, doesn't matter, right? And then part B and part C, instead of 45 minutes, take 1.5 hours, doesn't matter. Okay, it's like this. The time management, you should be able to worry about that only towards the end. Okay, that is, at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks before the exam. Till then, you build the base of, the reading. Okay, so this is what we should prepare yourself for. Right, so that is the end of the session.